Okay.
Cool.
And the name of the production?
Oh,
the
it's
name
called Verve, Verve.
Oh.
So it's kind of like it's a loose synonym for life, but more with like narrative storytelling.
Kind of a French
I
derivation,
think
huh?
it is French.
Really? Oh, okay. So I should have
Verve
everybody
de
speaking in
vie.
French then.
Okay, whatever. Well, I remember one time I was with my dad and we were in downtown Denver, and it was a typical fall day. It was chilly and sort of bright. And he was walking, we were walking to go someplace, and he had a hold of my hand, and about every third step I'd hit the ground because he was really moving. And I was just sort of skipping. And he'd pick me up and carry me forward and then down. That was sort of fun.
Oh, I know of one interesting thing that would be really. Two sisters lived side by side. We each had 5 acres. There was a borderline, and we knew where that was, and we were not allowed to cross over. And so my dad built a swing on the border, and we would play a little bit off each side of the border. So when our moms called us, we said, "Yep, we're home." I remember that it happened more than once, and it's kind of unusual, you know. And in fact, many years later, the mothers said that they wondered why they had done that.
My favorite life story is my favorite part of my life was when we lived in Indiana, carefree, and there's that ravine again. And my brother, I thought he was 20 years older than me, and he was from 18 to 23, whatever that is, 5 years, I guess. He found a way of getting a strong rope, attach it to a tree on one side of this ravine, and we'd get in there and swing over and jump off and see if we can land on the other side. That was exciting. And there were no accidents or incidents, but it was just fun, the challenge of it.
It's kind of a little of a inventor kind of thing. I would take like slides and with a lens and a flashlight and project it. We lived on a duplex, so that means 2 apartment houses, and we were upstairs, and the wall of the building next to us had no windows, so I could project my projects onto that. You know, I was experimenting at an early age with cameras and lenses and stuff like that. That was kind of neat. Figure out, you know, things came apart really easy, but just putting them back together was really hard. That was kind of the hard part.
I think what impacted me the most was that I did not want to be a farmer, because we had to be out there all day long cultivating, had to watch the row, couldn't get any corn out if you got the weeds only. And you had to be so on task driving that thing, the tractor. In fact, we were so straight, my dad would put a post on the end of the row with a flag on it, and he said, "Now you drive it to that post to get the row straight." So we had to get the road absolutely perfectly straight. And then if we did that, people would go by and say, "Boy, that's a good farmer." But if some farmers didn't care, they went like this, "That's a bad farmer." And my dad saw that I was doing okay, so he said, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you 5 acres of land, and you can grow anything you want, and the money's yours." So I grew flaxseed, and I made $15 on it, and I bought a rifle. My first purchase.
I was a troublemaker when I was young, and the biggest thing that I remember the most is Officer Brown. He was always the one that arrested me, and he'd always pick me up, and he'd always apologize for doing his job, and he'd do little things like he'd take me to the park and talk to me and say, "You know, John, if you just walk off school grounds and get a fight off school grounds, you wouldn't get in trouble." He wouldn't tell me if I was right or wrong. He'd just say, "You wouldn't get in trouble that way," or whatever. And he was just so, I don't know, he just cared. It felt like he cared, and not just whatever. It just meant a lot to me.
Oh, I got so many favorites. I had a brother named Ed Wynn, Ed for short. And he was a cementer, a family, keeping us together. And I just would go my merry way and live each day as it came. But he'd have to have a doings for this and a doings for that. And, come on, Allegra, you and Carl should come over. Come on. And now I regret the fact that I didn't jump in at the time of the invitation. He's gone. All them little things you call siblings are gone. But you can't go back.
Let me see. My mother had cancer when I was only 17, but I learned that life is not easy, and that you have to hang in God, in the Lord, so He'll show you the path. He doesn't promise that everything is gonna be roses and beautiful stuff, but you'll get your trials, but He'll take you through them. And it was a hard thing, but she passed away eventually. And you learn to be strong in God, and I adopted him as my real dad. He has helped me always.
I know the answer to that one. So back in Hungary, I was living a pretty good life, and I never really had to work hard to make money or have money. And so then I moved here, and, mom and dad aren't here, so I had to get a job. And, the first 6 months of that job, I was shoveling soybeans and rotten crap, and it was just, a terrible experience. And every day I left work thinking, I can't do this. I gotta quit the next day. I'm gonna quit. I can't go on. But then, I don't know. I guess I just pulled motivation out of myself and found that, I'm not gonna be a quitter, and I'm gonna challenge the opposition.
Well, coaching the freshmen is a little hard because I have a new group of kids every year, but I definitely, a lot of those kids are seniors now, juniors now, and I still have a great relationship with them. I think probably the moment that stands out most was I had a kid come to me crying at practice one day. I was like, "Why are you crying? We're here to practice baseball." I said, "Is everything okay?" He's like, "No." And I was like, "Are you having family issues?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Well, school issues?" He goes, "No." And I kind of smiled. I was like, "Are you having girl issues?" And he goes, "Yeah." And it was kind of cool because to me it was a silly moment that you're having girl issues. You're a freshman in high school, but it was kind of cool. He could see me kind of step back and be like, "Hey, girls are gonna come and go. Like, high school's gonna come and go. And in the long run, this moment in time, it kind of sucks now, but we're gonna get through this. So let's focus on baseball and get after it, okay?" And he kind of smiled like, "Okay." But
my father would always go around to different little towns and haul these bean pickers back to the farm to pick beans. And he went to Lowell, Oregon, and picked up this cute little 16-year-old girl. And I had an older brother. And he really liked her. And he would go up in the top of the barn, clear to the top with binoculars, and follow her all over the bean yard with his binoculars. They have now been married 63 years.
The main thing when I was a teenager, about 15 or so, because a lot of us, we had girlfriends, and my girlfriend had an extended family. Since I was the only one, my mother told me that I was the only one in the family, which later on I found out I had a brother and sister. But with that girlfriend, we traveled and did things up in the mountains, went to places like parks and what have you, and with the family, and felt part of the family. And we wound up, just doing or being part of the family themselves. The fact that I was considered the family member because I was over there all the time. I'd either help her mom because she was a single mom. She had, as I can remember, there were 7 children, 4 of which were girls. And then the other 3 were boys, bunch of scallywags. But anyhow, that's another story. They very rambunctious. But it was a lot of fun, be able to go to the different parks. And the fact that that I didn't really have any brothers and sisters, just gave me the feeling of being, of a big family, which was kind of nice. So we did that a lot. Nothing really spectacular, just going to the parks and having picnics, having food, running around, doing crazy things, somersaults in the park, and those kind of things, enjoying the outside, occasionally at the zoo, but San Diego Zoo at that. I don't know if it was world class at the time, but it's been here a long time.
Oh my goodness. Well, my first date with the man that I married was actually a Valentine banquet that he was the MC of. And he didn't have a date, and somebody told him, well, you can't be the MC unless you have a date. And so I got invited to this Valentine party, and the rest is history. 53 years ago.
Well, my love story, I had one love story, and that's when I met my wife. We were in the same church, and we started going out together, and I said, well, I've got to leave and join the Army. Gotta prove myself. And so when I left, she was crying, and my mom said, oh, he'll be back. Well, I didn't get through basic training, and I realized I missed her quite a bit. So I came home after basic training before we went to our training school, and we got married.
And in 58 of October, Walt moved to Devil's Lake from Minnesota, and at that time I didn't know it, but he worked right across the alley from where I worked as a mechanic, and he also lived across the street from us. Now, I had not met him at that time, but one night my 2 girlfriends and I decided we were going to go see a movie, and it was a terrifically sad movie. I remember crying through the whole thing. And when the movie was over, we walked outside, and all of a sudden there was he looked like a soldier right next to me. And he grabbed my hand, and he looked at me, and he says, I'll walk you home. I started walking with him, and then I thought, well, what is this guy up to? And I looked at him a couple of times, and he didn't look dangerous. So we just kept on going. We were engaged on February 1st, 1959. It'll be 57 years that we got married.
Well, I was a student at Western State College of Colorado in Gunnison. And there was this cute little gal that was serving soup in the chow line at the cafeteria. And we were married within the year.
I met Jack at school, but I didn't date him much until I went to Denver to work for the summer with my roommate. My roommate and I both went to Denver to get jobs. And she was a Methodist, and we went to the Methodist church downtown. And we were just coming out of the church, and I saw Jack and his brothers and some friends on the street. And so I hollered at Jack, and I said, oh, hi, Jack, why don't you call me sometime? And so he did. And we started, in fact, he called me quite regular that summer, and in the fall we got married.
During that time, I went to a congregational church in Pasadena. It's a rather large one. And that's when I met Charlotte. And the lights went on as soon as I saw her. I thought, boy, I got to get to know that gal.
So it happened fairly quickly. We dated for about a year or so, and then we're engaged.
After I was through school and he was through the Air Force, and it was Easter Sunday night, and a year later on Easter Sunday he gave me an egg and inside was a ring, and then we got married that following year. It was one of those things that I looked at him and go, wow, I think I could marry this guy. I didn't even know his name yet when I saw him. So we've been married 45 years.
Favorite story?
Yeah, the personal experience.
How I got my first job. I was in college, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I took all these classes, took some art classes, social studies, language, science, and one day before I graduated, somebody came and said, "You want a job?" I said, "Well, I'm not graduated yet." "That's okay. As soon as you graduate, Rick Rell has a 1 through 7th grade, 1 to 8th grade, and you can have that job." So I was principal out there. Right out of college, they hired me. That was good.
I think it was building this house with my wife. She had the eyesight and I had the energy. And we did all the finish work in the landscaping. And we did it all with hammers and saws and wheelbarrows. No mechanical equipment.
Out of your whole life so far, what's your favorite personal story or experience?
Well, I guess in some ways what I just described, because it was such a interruption in my life. You have your kind of, at least I tended to have your whole life. You get your college, master's degree, you get married, you start on a career, and you are very goal-oriented, and that's what you tend to look at. But when you have something like I did or like you did, it has a way of really bringing you up short and realizing that, we're all living by the grace of God, and at any time, your life could be snapped out just like that. And so it's by the grace of God that we survive. So I guess that's about it.
My favorite music making story would have to have happened probably here in Oregon. But maybe a couple weeks ago now, I wrote this song that is about this girl that I met over in Hungary when I went back to work there after my junior year of high school. And the only reason we're not together really is because I'm over here and she lives over there, which, kind of sucks. But anyway, and so I wrote this song about her, and it's called Poets and Pistols and Pens. And I remember writing it and thinking, who the hell is this song about? And then all of a sudden, it just hit me that, okay, I subconsciously wrote a song about this girl, for sure. So that would probably have to be, because I didn't know who I was writing about when I wrote it, but when I thought about her and the song, it just all made sense.
I'm going to play an original for you guys. This song is called Poets and Pistols and Pens. She's in love with cities she's never been to. She's never met. She's the type of girl to be honest about how she feels. And she never gets mad. Oh, she just gets upset. She can make it all real for me if I need it. She loves poets and pistols and pens. She's a regular Rolling Stone. How I wish I did not have to go. She sleeps with the stars at night. Dreams of the moon. She's the type of girl who can join in her pocket and she kite. She just wants